So this year in 2021, I've been on 4 cruises, all of which I've sailed solo. I've cruised with Carnival, Bahamas Paradise, MSC, and the adult-only cruise line Virgin Voyages. While each experience was unique in its own way, and of course I had a lot of fun for the most part, the truth is that there were some aspects about solo cruising that I absolutely hated. Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Jay and welcome to The Ship Life. So I do a lot of solo traveling, whether it be on a cruise to other countries, or even back when I was working on board cruise ships for cruise lines like Carnival and NCL, which are in its own way its own solo journey. Now, I do always say when I talk to people that I believe everybody should travel alone at least once in their life, just for the overall experience, because there are a lot of positives to it. However, there also comes a lot of cons and issues with solo traveling, especially on cruising, which is why I'm going to tell you everything that I hate about solo cruising. Now, before we start, just please keep in mind throughout the video that there are pros and cons to literally everything in life. If you've seen any of my cruise ship vlogs, then you know that for the most part, I have the time of my life. And I know some people out there are going to say, why don't you make a video about the things you love about solo cruising? Well, looking at my numbers, you guys wouldn't enjoy it. And if you see this video as a negative, you should probably look at yourself, because you're the one that's clicking on a video that you perceive as negative. So the first thing I hate is trying to book a cruise as a solo cruiser. As most of you know, there are only a small handful of cruise lines out there that actually have a solo option for you to choose from for your cruise ship vacation. You have Royal Caribbean on their Quantum class ship for the most part. You have, of course, MSC, and you got Virgin Voyages, just to name a few. But the thing about this is that most of the time when you book these solo cruises, by the time you factor everything in, like the port fees, excursions, drink packages, and all the other stuff that come with cruising, you typically end up with a slightly cheaper price if you were to sail with 2 or more people on board your actual cruise. Now, the reason for the potentially expensive frustration when booking a cruise as a solo cruiser is primarily due to the overall business model for the cruise ship industry. Straight up, there's just more money to be made when you put more people on a ship. That's why there's a big push to, at minimum, book a cruise, dual occupancy, and overall get as many people on board the actual cruise ship, packing you all in like sardines, because there's just so much profit involved. Because the truth is, when it comes to the cruise ship industry, the profit is not made from people booking the actual cruise. Well, unless you're booking like the Haven or any of the all-star suites on board the ship, but most of us can't afford that. The money comes from all the profits being made from people selling things like excursions and the restaurants and the extra animal towels you might want inside of your room. Just think of cruising like the movie theater. Most of us have families, and if we go to the theater, we'll go on a Sunday during the matinee, so of course the actual ticket to get into the theater is typically pretty cheap. However, when you go over to the expensive popcorn that's $20, and let's say you're with the kids, they're going to want all kinds of cookies and candy, it's going to add up pretty quickly. Now, if I were to go to the movie theater by myself, typically the only thing I get is no drinks, and I'll sneak some stuff here and there from the dollar store and maybe get some cookie dough bites. But if you're with the family, you don't have much of a choice. This is how it is for cruising. If you're sailing with, let's say, your family, you're typically going to spend a lot more money. And if you decide to come alone, there's a good chance you could just be penalized for it, so to speak. Next, we got to talk about your overall planning as a solo cruiser. Because unfortunately, since you are cruising alone, you are going to have a couple curveballs just simply thrown at you for the fact that you're by yourself and not with the party. Because you got to understand that cruise lines have strategically designed their cruise ships to host parties, meaning more than one person sailing. So that's why, again, they typically push you to sail with at least one other person, because there is more money involved. So doing anything like booking a restaurant, an excursion, or anything for that matter is going to come with its challenges when you're cruising alone. So here's the deal. Whenever you cruise alone, you should always cruise with the mindset that you are, of course, a solo cruiser. What I mean by that is that you got to plan everything strategically, just like the cruise lines have their business model planned out strategically for the overall design of their ships. So let's say, for example, you decide you want to go to a specialty dining restaurant while on board the ship. You want to avoid like the peak times, meaning the times where all the families and couples are going there. Otherwise, you're going to look like the weird guy that probably shouldn't be there. At least that's going to be the perception. My suggestion is you always want to go off peak time. So maybe you want to go to dinner a little bit earlier or maybe a little bit later so that you don't seem weird. Also, when it comes to, let's say, doing something like going to check out any of the shows, it is best to maybe not just sit in the middle row, because typically people are going to come in packs and bunch up in these areas. And you're constantly going to be asked if you're with anybody. And eventually it's probably going to get annoying because you're going to be asked this on multiple occasions. And then when you say no, people are going to give you weird looks. So it's best for you to sit maybe either in the front row or the back row, or just kind of somewhere off to the side where people can't bother you. That way you can enjoy your overall experience. But of course, with that, there just comes the downfalls of maybe you're not going to get the best view, or just overall if you decide to just go ahead and, you know, maybe take the L and sit someplace that maybe somebody else wanted to sit with the family, it's just going to give you kind of like a bad vibe and a bad experience overall while you're on your cruise as a solo cruiser. So with all that in mind, let's talk about the overall assumptions when it comes to solo cruisers. Now this is something I really hate because I deal with this a lot. As somebody that solo cruises, even if I'm just going for work, people will naturally talk to me and ask me weird questions like why I'm there and why am I not with anybody. I do think it's important that if you're going to be a solo cruiser, especially if you're just going for vacation, to establish some type of vibe. You don't necessarily have to become Casper the Friendly Ghost, especially if you're a non-social person, but at the same time, you got to find some common ground as far as how you're going to, you know, communicate with people, be social, and have a good time while on board during your solo cruise. Because I've seen all types of things. I've seen people that are perceived as lonely. I've seen people that are perceived as the horny person that is trying to, you know, bed wrestle with the people that they met on embarkation day, or just the people that just come off as creepy. Now, I guess I'm one of those people. I hope not. I don't know. Maybe people have seen me and put me into those categories. I'm the weird guy walking around with a camera and a tropical shirt that just looks like he possibly shouldn't be there, or just too happy to be there. So when I solo cruise, I do try to kind of give off like this hybrid vibe, a professional but also fun. Because yes, I am there for work, I'm documenting and recording things about the ship, but I'm also someone that likes to party and I'm very social. But that could also come with its own issues and problems. Let's say for example, when I was on the Scarlet Lady, of course a lot of people would recognize me from the channel, and if I was at the bar, you'd have a lot of, well, cougars that decided to come around and they wanted to buy me a couple drinks. And then they would eventually pitch the idea that maybe I want to check out the room because, you know, they got the Rockstar suite and they want me to see the get it on mood lights that are available. No, Susan, I am not interested. So I do also have to talk about the potential risk of making the wrong friends while on board a cruise ship as a solo cruiser. What I mean by that is whenever you book an actual cruise as a solo cruiser, chances are you probably have some type of intention as far as what you want to achieve while on board this actual cruise during your vacation. Maybe you just want to get your tan on. Not me, because obviously, you know, tanning's not really my thing. I'm already a little overcooked. But you might just want to, you know, just go set sail and get on the 7 seas, disappear for a little while, read a book. You know, everybody has these things that they want to do. However, you could just be maybe a social person, or maybe you're even not a social person, but you meet some people that turn out to be kind of cool. However, you might end up maybe going over your budget that you planned on using because somebody met you, assumed that since you were alone, maybe you're a high roller, you got a balcony cabin, and they want to indulge on the things that maybe they aren't financially stable enough to do. So next thing you know, you're booking excursions for people, you're buying drinks, because there are a lot of people, you'll see these people in like casinos and other parts of the ship and just all over the world in general that are very good at talking to people into getting them what they want. Very manipulative, right? That's happened to me a couple times. I met a girl, this is, you know, of course before my girlfriend and all that, but there are people that I've met and next thing you know, I'm buying them all kinds of drinks and I've spent $100 on them and I'm like, man, what did I just do? This stuff happens all the time. Or on the other hand of that one, you could see some couple that maybe turns out to be swingers and the next thing you know, they bought you a couple pina coladas and now they want to take you away and kidnap you for the cruise. Personally, I'm not really down for that kind of thing. I know some people are, and maybe for some people that's their intention, but what I'm trying to say is you just got to know what you're trying to go after whenever you're on a cruise, because things could pop up out of nowhere that could change your entire experience. It could make or break it. Now, of course, I got to talk about how boring solo cruising can be. Of course, cruise lines sell you the idea of endless fun, endless relaxation, and the ultimate escape from reality. While for the most part, yes, that is true, there are inevitably going to be some down times from time to time. There's nothing you can do about it. Of course, when you solo cruise, there are other factors that are going to take way. You're going to be able to just kind of maybe get away from that girlfriend or boyfriend you've been fighting with over back at home. There's also just that idea that you don't have to go to work, just like any other average cruising experience. But unfortunately, things can get a little bit worse for the simple fact that you are a solo cruiser. So there is that saying that success means nothing if you don't have anybody to share it with, or it goes something like that. Now, of course, you could apply that to any aspect of life, but especially over in cruising as well. Let's say you're on a cruise by yourself. Who's gonna put that suntan lotion on your back that way you don't get sunburned? Also, when it comes to eating that mahi-mahi at the specialty dining option, who's gonna say with you when it's really delicious? Also, at the casino, when you're burning through all your cash, it's gonna hurt just a little bit more where you don't have somebody next to you that's hurting just as much as you are and going broke and right along with you. My point here is that it is almost impossible to replace the fact that you're by yourself with a bunch of fun, because eventually it is going to hit you. Now, of course, there are ways to counteract this, especially if you're there for work or there's something you want to do while you're on board the ship as a solo cruiser. If you're there just to have a vacation, you're not really a social person, it could work out for you. But if you are a social person, my suggestion is to make friends quick. That way you can hang out and enjoy your overall experience. So I will say that overall, solo cruising and solo traveling in general is an experience unlike any other, and I truly do believe everybody should do it at least once if you have not already. But just keep in mind, it's probably not going to be for everyone. However, at least you can kind of knock it off the bucket list. But anyway, have any of you out there ever done a solo cruise? If you have, let me know which cruise line and how it was for you in the comment section below. I'm going to leave it right here, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope all of you are doing well. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out and, of course, subscribe. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you soon. Take it easy.